with kids, you realize that you have such heavy responsibility in your hands. It's your job to raise these kids. And even from little age, you want to make sure that you are kind of guiding them down the right path. You think that a 2-year-old doesn't really understand much, but they do. They're sponges and they absorb everything.
I hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bitcoin for Family show, where every guest is your new BFF. That's your Bitcoin friend forever. I'm Scott from Shamray, and it's an honor to have you here once again. Thanks to everybody that's been joining the show over these past few months. I hope you're finding it fun, informational, and laughing along the way. So for this week's episode, I'm excited to announce a mom of two now and a friend that we've known for the past few years here at Shamray, Camila Campton. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Scott?
Doing great. We were just reminiscing about it's been too long since we've seen each other in person at conferences and being
Yeah.
able to watch each other's family grow.
Yeah. You were at the conference, right?
Yes, we were in Vegas. I think it was probably the first time in a few years that we didn't get to see you and your family there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, but the baby was so tiny. My heart was like split in two.
No, we know the drill for sure. And going back not only at the Bitcoin conferences, but going back to the Swan conferences and stuff like that, just being
Exactly.
able to see your smiling face and the kids' faces, I guess even predates you having kids.
Yeah, which
That's
is
a,
really funny. Yeah.
Yes, watching them grow up. We'll get into all of that as we dive into the episode. But for those that don't know, let's kind of brief overview and maybe just kind of share a bit about your kids' ages, whatever you want to do to kind of give the audience a general sense of your family life, and then we'll dive into the questions.
Yeah, so again, my name's Camila Campton. I am a mother of two now. One is 2.5, and the other one's going to be 4 months very soon. Boy and girl, which is crazy because everyone's like, oh, you hit jackpot. Does that mean you're not going to have any more kids? And I'm like, no, not necessarily. But yeah, it's super blessed to be able to have both of those experiences. In terms of Bitcoin, I've been on a Bitcoin journey since late 2020, so it's almost going to be 5 years. And just the whole ride, how I've arrived to this new journey has been very influential and very helpful. So yeah, we can talk about that a little bit, but me in a
That's
nutshell.
Yes, that's a perfect high level introduction. We'll dive into some of that as we go along. But first, to kind of spice things up and get to know you even better, let's start with some icebreakers.
Okay.
And for those that don't know, Camila is originally from Colombia. And so this first question is themed off of that. So what is the one food from Colombia that you have to introduce to your kids? And have you already done it?
That's a really great question. So I have taken my first child to Colombia. I took her when she was around 5 months. So I had to be like the fastest thing. Obviously, I couldn't introduce food because she was still very little. But the last time we went with her, she was introduced to pretty much everything. So I'm from Medellin, and the main dish there is called bandeja paisa, which is a platter from the region. So you have rice, beans, egg, different types of meats, sweet plantain. It's a very big dish, so she's definitely eaten. She's a little foodie. She's eaten all of those, and it's good to keep introducing her to stuff like
Yes.
that. Empanadas, she loves it. And of course, I have like a whole bunch of pictures on my phone of her just eating different foods.
It's just stuffing their face and making a mess along the way.
Exactly, yeah.
No, get that palate expanded as early as possible,
Absolutely.
especially
Absolutely.
for those travels. And the dish sounds delicious. So when we make our way to Colombia one day, we'll have to dive into it.
Oh my gosh, we would have to go together. It would be
That the perfect tour guide.
yeah.
Perfect. Question number 2. If you and your family were a band, what would your band name be? And what kind of music would you play?
I feel like we would just have to call our band the Camptons because it just sounds cool. I love our last name. We would probably play some punk rock music. I think my husband and I are very into it, and we've always talked about how this is the music we're going to introduce to our kids. They're going to be badass and just love this type of music with us. So yeah, punk
That's
rock
perfect.
for
It's a
sure.
very classic name to go with. I didn't expect punk rock. I thought maybe we would go something Colombian themed or something that
Oh,
way.
really?
You threw a
Well,
curveball there.
because my husband is from Ohio and I'm from Colombia, so we're like complete opposite side of the spectrum. But once we got to know each other a little bit more, we met each other in college. We realized we were very similar in musical tastes when we were teenagers, and we still listen to that type of music. So,
Very
yeah,
nice. And I forgot we had that Ohio connection with our spouses, with Mallory being from Ohio too.
that's
So that's there we go. She doesn't have the punk rock side, so that does differentiate her.
true.
Okay, question number 3. If you could teleport yourself back to one moment from your childhood, what day would that be and why?
Ooh, that's a really good one. I think I would teleport myself back to the day when I moved. I didn't know I was moving at the time, but when I moved from Colombia to the US, just because it was the first time I was flying on an airplane and I was going to see my mom after a really long time. So that day was just very emotional for me. Like I get to reconnect with my mom and be with her again. I just didn't know that I was going to be living here for like 10 plus years before I could go back to Colombia. But I just remember that day so vividly. And I think I would probably enjoy it a little more if I had the knowledge of that I have now, and probably savor it a little bit more, hug my grandparents a little bit more that day, because I knew that was going to be, our last trip together like that. So yeah, life-changing moment for sure that day.
Yeah, that can't get much bigger than a life-changing moment than that. And I have some other questions around that deeper down in the show, so we'll touch back on that. But for sure, the perfect answer there. The last icebreaker type question. What's the most unexpected thing you've learned about yourself since becoming a mom?
Oh, that's really good. I think I'm a little bit more strict than what I thought I would be because I'm so easygoing. With kids, you realize that you have such heavy responsibility in your hands. It's your job to raise these kids. And even from little age, you want to make sure that you are kind of guiding them down the right path. You think that a 2-year-old doesn't really understand much, but they do. They're sponges and they absorb everything. So I feel like I'm becoming the strict mom while my husband is more of like the easygoing and so that surprised me a lot because I feel like I'm such a happy and just kind of chill person, but when it comes to my kids it's more like, okay, this is not just about you anymore, it's about these other two little souls that you're trying to protect and kind of guide. If I start that discipline now, I know it won't be harder down the
Yeah.
line. So I'm kind of like establishing that flag in my mom journey pretty.
There you go. Was your mom a strict mom, or do you think you got it from that?
Yes,
Yeah.
she was very strict, but also because she was a very young mom. She had me when she was super young, and her mentality was, I'm gonna be strict because I don't want you to go through the same things that I did, and I want you to avoid mistakes that I made. So, and I'm super thankful for that now, and we talk all the time. I live very close to her, and whenever we have these conversations, it's like, yes, mom, you were absolutely right. Even if I didn't understand it at the time, I see why you did certain things that you did. And now she's able to kind of harvest from that as well. Being a grandma now, it's like if you would have done things differently, who knows if where I would have been in my life right now, and if you would have grandkids that you could enjoy. So yeah,
It all worked out, and you're
it kind of did.
following her footsteps. Did you always think that Thevin would not be the strict parent? Did you think you'd be the strict one and Thevin wouldn't, or do you think that was surprising?
He's such an easygoing person also. I think he can be strict in certain ways and I can be a lot more strict in other ways. When your kid becomes a toddler, dad becomes the hero, the fun one, the one that they always want to go to and bother. He works at home, so she's always, peeking to see, how can I bother dad or how can I play with him. So I feel like, yeah, he kind of lets himself be more in that relaxed mode and, me. It
Yep.
works. It's a team effort.
Exactly. The yin and the yang. And it does make a difference, speaking as a girl dad, since that first one was a girl for you guys. I think that probably does play somewhat of a role in
That's true.
her, as she's, 2, 3 years old, kind of morphing into that and seeing dad in that light. So who knows? Well, those are perfect icebreakers that everybody got to know. Let's kind of rewind. One of those icebreakers touched on one of the topics we were going to start with. So I want to kind of go back to that time when you were in Colombia and coming over to the US, whatever you're willing to share about what was that story like kind of coming over here and kind of what preceded that?
Yeah, so like I said, my mom had me at a very young age. She was a single teenage mom, and she always said that she didn't want to stay in Colombia and she wanted to be elsewhere in the United States. And the United States is kind of glamorized, I feel like, in Latin in America when you watch the movies and, the music and stuff is just very attractive. And she actually had an aunt that would travel back and forth, and her aunt would tell her, you have to go someday. And since she was little, she's like, okay, I have to go someday. But I guess she had a bigger purpose now that she had me. So she moved to the US, I believe it was 1998, and I stayed with my grandma while she established herself here. And I had a very happy childhood in Colombia growing up with my grandparents. I remembered my cousins lived upstairs, the house upstairs. So it was very joyful. And when it was time for my mom and I to reunite, I had no idea that you had to go get visas and, there's this whole legality. I didn't even know where the United States was on a map, to be honest. I thought it was just part of North Colombia somewhere. I don't know. It just, my mind wasn't there yet. But when it was time to go, it was just like, okay, I'm going to go see my mom and that's it. You don't really think about the future that much. You very much live in the moment when you're 6 years old. So what was interesting though was I moved December 15th and my mom was in New Jersey. Obviously it's very cold and the weather is very different from what I was used to in Colombia, which is always kind of springtime, hot weather, no idea about snow. So when you go up there and I have this very big jacket and you see snow when you walk outside, it's very shocking. It turns out my grandma wanted to come back with me to Colombia. My mom was like, no, she's my daughter. She's staying here with me. But I didn't realize that because of that, the immigration status wasn't really there. My mom was still trying to figure out her immigration status. And obviously, because I was underage, I fell under her. So it actually took us around 10 years to be able to travel back to Colombia and come back to the States, because we could always go back, but we wouldn't be able to come back as easy. And I think that when I finally understood what that meant, it was a little painful, because you realize, well, I didn't really have a choice in this. Like, no one asked me, oh, do you want to, grow up in Colombia or do you want to grow up in the US? You just kind of have to go with what your parents do with you. But so it was kind of a hidden secret that I always had. It was always like, shush, shush, don't tell anyone that, we're in the process of getting our legal status. Don't tell anyone at school. And you never really understood why until you got older and you were like, oh, okay, this is actually very serious. And I think that also conditioned me a lot to be, not only because I'm the oldest daughter, but to always follow the rules in a sense, to make sure you don't get in trouble and you're always doing the right thing to hopefully get, the best outcome possible. And it all worked out, but that really shaped me growing up, and on top of having the strict parent, right? But obviously, in hindsight, seeing that, I want to make sure that everything goes well, because when we talk to the immigration officer, they're really asking you, are you going to be a good enough citizen to stay here in this country for us to allow you to stay in this country? So that kind of shaped me growing up. And being able to go back to Colombia, I was able to go back when I was 16. I would think to myself, wow, it would have been very different to live here, grow up here. And looking back, I'm very thankful that my mom made that move, just because you really do see the amount of opportunities that you have here in this country are a lot greater. And you get to meet so many different types of people. And I was able to go to college here and then meet my husband, et cetera, et cetera. So all those sacrifices that were made were absolutely worth it. And yeah.
The being a strict mom definitely paid off to make sure you guys made it through that long time period. And so what was it like? Lots to touch on there. Let's start on the fun stuff. What was it like seeing your first snow? Like, do you remember that moment? Just kind of, what is this stuff falling down? What was that like coming from it?
Oh my gosh. Well, you see it in cartoons and stuff, and it's just touching it is so unreal, and you just want to keep playing. And I remember one of the funnest things was my mom took me to Toys R Us one day when it existed, and it was like a big Toys R Us warehouse, and it was snowing outside, and it just felt like a dream, like a complete dream. You just wanted to, I didn't know if I wanted to go inside the toy store or stay outside and play in the snow. It was just so whimsical. It was very, very cool.
How long were you guys in New Jersey that you had to live through the winters?
Not that long, unfortunately, because when 9/11 happened, my dad, he got laid off. So my mom married when she was here, and he's my dad because he essentially raised me. But he got laid off, and my mom actually hated the cold. She thought it was so depressing and so different. And we took a vacation down to Miami, and my mom was like, "This is exactly what I want." And so because my dad got laid off, they were able to get some money to then be able to move down to Florida. So I only spent a real like one winter in New Jersey before we actually had to move down, which was kind of sad because you don't get the seasons here in Florida except for hurricane season. But yeah, it was very short-lived, but definitely made a difference.
You could ever live in the winter now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Maybe. If you're comfortable, I think it's easier because my parents were starting from scratch. My mom had to work as a bartender, barely had any money. My dad was a mechanic. And so I think their experience was just super traumatizing in a way, where they didn't have like as great as like resources to make their life comfortable. On top of that, they at the time now had 3 kids, so myself and my 2 younger sisters. So I think it was a lot for them to handle and understand now, thinking about it.
No, I don't know if I mean, growing up in San Diego, I don't know if I could ever actually live in the winters. I like traveling to the snowboarding. We'll go do that, but it's always nice to go back to a warm spot, whether it's here in San Diego or for you guys in Florida or wherever else it could be. And you mentioned, so you're the oldest, like you said, and you were 5 or 6 when you came over from Colombia. Did you feel a sense of being, even though you were young, you were the oldest, were you trying to protect your siblings, or how did that dynamic work between you and your siblings when you came over?
It's so interesting. So when I came over, my one sibling, she was around, so the middle sister, she was 9 months. So she was very young. And then my mom got pregnant while I had just arrived. So they're kind of like, what do they call those Irish twins? They're essentially they're both born in August, so essentially 1 year apart. And I don't know if it was a sense of protection, but it was more of a sense of I want to be a good example for them. And I think that kind of created an overachiever type of status in my head. Like I have to be the overachiever and, teach them like, if I could do it, we're not any different. We were raised by the same parents. So you kind of have no excuse to kind of, end up in a bad place because you have all the support and stuff. And if I can do it, you can do it. So it was kind of that mentality, and it still kind of is like that. Like we're adults now, and it's like make sure I try to give them advice when I can, and if they take it, great. But it's like at least I told you,
Yep.
I guess that kind of protection, like making sure that they're okay. And when Bitcoin came along, it was kind of like you have no choice. You have to do this because this is a protection for yourself, for the future that you want to build. And so when people say that, it's hard to get your family to get into Bitcoin after you get into it, I kind of didn't give them a choice, really. It was, you have to do this because I want the best for you. And if I see that it's worked out for me and for other people, there's no reason why you should be falling behind, even if they don't see the big picture just yet. Just,
The benefit of being the oldest sister, you got to tell them what to do.
Yeah, I mean, I probably sound incredibly bossy now that I look into myself, and they'll probably agree that I am. But like it comes from a place of love to make sure that they're not left behind and that they're protected.
No, for sure. And it's kind of, I don't know if this has ever thought in your head, but just the fact that you guys came over and like you said, your mom had recently gotten pregnant. But if you guys hadn't moved over here, how different your life would have been having you two in one country, your other sister so far away, and how different that bond would have been. So the timing obviously was a blessing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I always felt, we're not biological sisters, but in my head it's like that doesn't matter. We come from the same mom. You guys are my sisters. And just seeing how hard my parents worked to take care of the three of us, it's even more of a they have a privilege that I don't think they're able to see sometimes because they were born here, and they didn't have to go through the process that I had to go through with my parents to get the legal status here. They're American citizens right from the get-go. So it's like you have no idea the blessings that you have. Like, take advantage of them because they truly are blessings that you need to recognize, and because you have them because of the sacrifices that others have made. Yeah, take advantage of them as much as you can and build an amazing life because you have the opportunity to do so.
Very, very well said. Maybe let's fast forward a little bit to you're growing up, you end up at college, like you said, and that's where you ended up meeting your husband. What was that what's your love story like between how did you guys first meet? Was it love at first sight? Did you play hard to get?
So this is funny. I met him. It was actually because I did a workout group and I just went on Facebook at our college pages and I said, hey, free workout at this park or whatever. And he shows up. And of course, it sounds like a movie. He comes, he's like all buff on a motorcycle, like totally bad guy, kind of cool guy, mysterious guy type of deal. I was terrified. And he went to that one workout, and then that's it. He was like, hey, do you want to go to the college gym and we can do other workouts there? And I was like, no, because I was like, I'm going to die if I work out with this guy. He is so in shape. He was so much more in shape than I was. So I declined, and we were just Facebook friends until a couple of years later, he actually decided to start a fraternity, a co-ed fraternity at the university, and asked if I wanted to be a part of that. And I said yes. And then, after that, he graduated. And then I reached out like a year later. We went on a coffee date. And after that, it was just kind of, yeah.
Story was written.
Or, yeah, which when I think about it, we've probably been together for almost 10 years now. So that's crazy to think about. It feels like a lifetime ago.
Yes.
But it doesn't feel like it's been that long either because it's been so much fun.
Especially once the kids come, then it goes even faster.
Yes.
But it's funny how those things, think of how much could have changed in that kind of year or two that you guys didn't talk. And, just the fact maybe he never starts that co-ed fraternity,
Exactly.
where do you end up now?
Exactly. He would have just been the very buff guy that came to my workout that was really good looking, but I would have never had the courage to talk to or anything.
It is kind of serendipitous that so much in the Bitcoin space is about, healthy eating, working out, and that sort of stuff. And the beginning of your marriage kind of started on that healthy side of things as well, kind of because of a workout class. So
yeah,
it kind of full circle there too.
So funny. Yeah.
Yep. Have you guys, so you mentioned, Evan being from the States, you from Colombia. How have you guys merged kind of any cultural rituals or traditions, or how has that grown together as you guys have started a family?
Well, it's fun when you first start a family and you start to dream about like, okay, how are we going to do these traditions and stuff? So we kind of just merge what we can from both cultures. So Thanksgiving has been really fun, just having both families, because that's not a Colombian thing at all, but it's something that you have to do if you live here in America. You've been here for a really long time, and the dishes are very different. So my Hispanic family is not used to eating like casseroles and, like all these things. They don't make turkey for Thanksgiving. They make like a pernil, which is part of a pig, like a pig dish instead of the turkey. But we just all cook a whole bunch of those foods together and just kind of have a bigger feast than usual. Then our Christmases, where I've been able to take Devin down to Colombia just so he can see how it is, because it is very much traditional Catholic kind of traditions. You don't see them that much here because it's a melting pot, but when you go down there, it's just like full blown. So it's kind of fun to kind of show him that piece of our culture and that our kids will be able to kind of, see what it's like. I grew up believing that baby Jesus was the one that brought presents, not Santa. And so it's kind of deciding like, who do we tell our kids is going to bring the presents, Santa or baby Jesus?
Or both. You get two different piles.
Exactly. Like, he's a little baby. He needs someone to help him carry all those presents.
Yep. The reindeer can't do it all.
Exactly.
That's funny. And I I'll invite myself over to Thanksgiving, since turkey is okay. It's probably my least favorite meat. So having some other meat options on
That's what my dad
Thanksgiving,
says. He's like,
yeah,
really? It's like, it's okay, Dad. You can cook what you want. Yeah.
yeah. So having the pork dish works out for me, and so I'll be showing up in a few
Me
months.
too, please.
Exactly. And along this way, so you mentioned earlier, around 2020s when you started learning about Bitcoin. What was the kind of precipitous of that happening, or how did you start learning about it, and where did that come from?
Yes. Props to my husband. We weren't married at the time. So this was back in 2020 when everything was in complete chaos. We got married July 4th of that year. So our 5th-year anniversary was actually this past weekend. And we then moved to Denver together, and I had never lived with him prior to that. So I had no idea what his daily routines really were until, we started living together and I started to see what he would do. So I had no idea that he was a Bitcoiner when I married him. I just did not know that he had been down a rabbit hole since March, trying to figure out, where to put his money. He had been on Twitter and following a whole bunch of gold bugs. And in one of the comments, some random anon commented, "Gold is a shit coin, buy Bitcoin." And so that led him down the rabbit hole of, okay, let me look into this Bitcoin thing. And he had actually started stacking. I had no idea, which is kind of funny to think about because you should be having financial conversations with the person that you're going to marry. So then fast forward, when we moved to Denver, I would see that he would listen to a whole bunch of Bitcoin podcasts, that he would be on Twitter a lot, just scrolling. And I feel like Twitter was so much fun that year because, everything started to go up and people were just having the biggest party. The memes were amazing. It was just such a fun time. And I felt like I was missing out. And he had told me to read the Bitcoin Standard and I didn't. I was just in my head, this is probably more for you, not so much for me. I felt like it's going to go over my head. I'm not really going to understand it. It sounds very technical. So I kind of disqualified myself from learning that information. But funny again, it was Thanksgiving dinner with his family when he started talking about it with his dad. And I started listening to the back and forth. And that's when I realized how knowledgeable he actually was about Bitcoin. And so I said, well, I actually need to start learning as well. I can't be left behind, especially if I'm his partner. I can't be ignorant to the subject, especially when it comes to our money, right? We were just starting out. And when you're starting out, you want to have a plan of, where are we going forward? We just don't want to be married just because it's fun to have a ring on. You actually want to build something. So I read the Bitcoin Standard, and that's the reason why it hit me. It was because at the time I didn't have a job. I knew that I wanted to build a family with Devin, but I felt like we hadn't really figured out how we were going to create wealth. So Bitcoin just made so much sense. And I wish I would have been stacking with him since he started stacking in March. But I have some money saved up, and realizing that the money that I had in a savings account was essentially just withering away because of inflation, I said, okay, this is going to change. Like, just put all of that money in, and whatever we can buy, we'll just continue to buy. So I was on board very quickly, but because I knew, okay, I'm married this amazing man. I know I'm going to want to have kids with him, but what foundation are we going to have where we can do that in a smart way? Not just have kids just to have kids, but, to actually have a better future. Because my mom always told me, I did all of these things. You can have a better life than what I was able to provide you guys. And you have the tools now. So I took that to heart. And if Bitcoin came as a tool into my life, I'm not just going to shun it away because a whole bunch of people on the internet talk bad about it. I'm actually going to do the work, study it, and then back my husband and say, okay, we're going to be doing this together. Let's go forward with it. So it was kind of like a breath of fresh air when I found out about it. Kind of like a miracle. It's just amazing how it consumed your life in the moment when you want to learn about it so much. But then you realize, wow, if I actually apply this to my life, how can this make my life change for the better and our future change for the better, where it looks a little bit more brighter, because I had no idea what I was going to do. And we were in the middle of a lockdown. There was no way I could really get a job in my city, in the new city that we were in. So it was just, if it wasn't for that moment, for God giving me that lifeline, I feel like I wouldn't be as positive as I am today.
And I think probably one of the keys you touched on there is you ignored all the kind of preemptive ideas that could have been placed in your head, and you did the work to learn about it yourself. And whether it doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin or anything else, that's probably the key, especially as parents. You want to teach your kids. So whether it's financial speaking or something to do with science or sports, or it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
You want your kids to understand that. Don't listen to somebody telling you things about whatever it is you want to learn about. Go and learn about it yourself and do the work.
Do the work. Exactly.
And make up your mind on the other side. And, if you had done all the work and come up with the opposite about whatever Thevin thought about Bitcoin, that would have been fine too, because you did the work for yourself.
Exactly. But we know that that's not what happens.
Yes.
Someone does the work.
Yeah.
We know how about the other.
Exactly. Exactly. And going back to that conversation that you overheard Thevin having with his dad, was Thevin trying to teach his dad about Bitcoin, or were his parents already down the rabbit hole?
No, he was trying to orange pill them, and he ended up orange pilling me instead. Very quickly. Yeah.
More important for your marriage.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't know he was doing that, and I didn't think that was his intention, but that's essentially what happened.
Yep. No.
His parents are believers. I mean, like I said, we kind of give them, our parents, no choice. Like, do this. Like, it's not the only thing that you have to do, but take advantage of it as much as you can, because we've done the work. So I guess there's a trust element there, but yeah, it's worked out well.
Definitely has. Key message there, everybody out there: do the work and teach that to your kids on that side of things. And so going back, you have a 2.5-year-old and a 4-month old. Let's focus on the older kid for a little bit, since there's probably about 2 or so years of being an only child. What were some of your favorite memories of kind of just having that one-on-one time with your daughter?
Oh my gosh, it's crazy how quickly they grow up. And I was the type of person that wanted to experience as much as I could with her. And we love trips. We love traveling. So the first thing that I did with her was, we're getting you a passport. I don't know where we're going, but it's good to have a passport on hand. So it's funny, like, trying to get her to take her passport picture, because she's such a little baby, and, making sure that it's right so that they don't reject your application. We got her passport. We were able to fly to Colombia, go to Mexico with her. We went to Japan about a year ago, which people are like, Japan with a toddler? That sounds completely insane, but it was honestly so cool just to see her interact with different parts of the world, different cultures, having her eat the food, and just be so carefree, and kind of living childhood through her eyes, like living through her eyes. It just makes you realize, okay, this is what it's supposed to be like. We feel crazy as adults thinking about all the things that could go wrong, and just everyday life can be very burdensome. But when you live through your kids' eyes, you're like, wow, life is actually pretty freaking cool and amazing. And I think a part of me is kind of selfish. Like, I want us to travel a lot so she can experience it, but so I can also experience it and kind of see life with a new pair of eyes, a fresh perspective. So it's been fun. It's been fun seeing her interact with everything that she's been able to interact with.
Was it emotional at all going back to Colombia for the first time with a kid, kind of seeing life come full circle?
Yes, and my grandma's still alive, so seeing her be able to interact with her great-grandchild was kind of just amazing to me. It made me think more about my life of, I want to be a great-grandmother someday and interact with my great-grandkids. That sounds crazy. That sounds amazing. And just seeing, like, all the things that we had to live through to finally come to this moment of just pure joy and happiness. And like I said, we're just harvesting things that we've planted a long time ago, and kind of took care of those plants, and now we're able to just enjoy them. It just keeps reminding me, like, this is what you're doing. And even as a parent, sometimes we feel so burdened, especially with two very young kids. Sometimes those days feel very long. Like, what am I doing? Is this actually what I'm supposed to be doing? But then you need to realize you're actually planting right now. Like, this is just a phase in your life where you're really just putting the seeds in, and just take care of it, and you'll be able to see how much you've actually done when you're able to harvest or see all those trees grow. That's kind of what it is. So it's so important to just remind yourself that, because the days can be very long, the nights can be very long.
Yes, especially with a 4-month-old.
Yes. Well, I think, he's a pretty good guy, but it's just like making sure that you're taking care of her, that you were, she still exists even though there's a little baby here, and taking care of both of them, making sure they survive. Yeah.
No, that is definitely true. For Japan, so kind of what was that trip actually like, diving deeper into it and bringing her over there? A long plane ride, maybe tips for parents who are not only getting on a plane for the first time, but going that far international. That's like you said, it's a scary thing no matter how far you're going, but any travel tips out there that you can share with the families out there listening, especially for international travel?
Yeah, so it can be very scary, but I think sometimes we always tend to overcomplicate certain things. So if prepare for it, but don't overly prepare to where you just kind of go crazy and you're like, okay, this is way too much. Why am I even doing this? Go to a country. What I loved about Japan is that it's actually a very kid-friendly country. They think about kids a lot. And someone said, that's really funny because their population is declining. We were talking about it together, my husband and I, and they're probably trying to show people that it's actually really nice to have a kid, and we actually take care of kids. And you go to a restaurant and they have their own little plates and cute little forks and knives. I don't know, they just have this very special attention. They think about the moms a lot as well. And so just prepare accordingly. It can be scary, but also it's a good thing that they nap. It's like they sleep a lot of the airplane ride, which is nice. And go somewhere where it's kid friendly, where it's, if you need to buy anything, they got you covered. Like, just know that whatever you need is probably also going to be over there, so you don't need to freak out that you left something back at home.
That is a hard.
You as a parent, they'll be taken care of,
That is a hard thing when you're packing for a trip with kids. You kind of straddle that line of how much do you actually pack and how much do you want to just get when you get to whatever that destination is, and figuring out what that right balance is. And it's different depending on what the trip is.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any issues related to the time change? Because that could be difficult when you're timing, you get over there and then the nap schedule is maybe thrown off, or the sleeping at night schedule. Did that cause any issues when you go that far?
So funny enough, I think I had more of an issue with it, but it was also probably because I was in my first trimester. And so it was a little bit tough, but she was able to kind of just roll with it. And I think the earlier you travel with them, the easier they're kind of, exposed to different things and just kind of go with the flow. And that's pretty much how she behaved. She went with the flow with everything. No huge, she didn't have any breakdowns or anything. She was pretty chill and had a good time. I think I had a little bit more of a rough time, and, just that first trimester can really suck. And I went at a time where you're not supposed to eat seafood, and that's all you want to eat in Japan. So I was even more limited than what my toddler was. But yeah, it's just, if you love to travel as a parent, just don't think of your kid as a burden, like, oh, I can't travel as much anymore. You probably can't travel as you could if it were just two adults, but, you can travel. It looks a little bit different, but I think it's a lot more fun when you involve them and see them experience everything with you as well.
For sure. And do you guys have any family of 4 trips coming up now that the other one has joined the clan?
Yeah, we're actually going to go on a cruise. He has to be 6 months in order to be allowed to get on the cruise. But yeah, we're gonna do a cruise, and it's Halloween themed, so it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, I did the same thing with him. It's like, first thing we're going to do is get his passport. And we were able to get it, and just, now we get to plan different trips. So
exactly. No. And like you said, getting the passport photo is a funny experience for a baby when you have to
oh my God,
hold them up properly. And
when the officer looks at, they open the passport and look at the picture, it's just kind of like a little chuckle, like, There's so
Yep.
many.
Yes, exactly. And they have to live with that picture for a few years.
Yes, my toddler looks very different now than what she did in her passport picture, so it's really funny.
Exactly. So kind of expanding on that becoming a family of four over the past few months, what's kind of been one of the bigger dynamics that have shifted in your guys' kind of day-to-day life, or what's that been like for you guys as the family grew?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's more of realizing that you don't only have to just take care of one, but two as well. You have to feed both of them. So it's making sure that, you're feeding one kid and as well as the other kid and making sure that they're taken care of. Babies, I think babies are really easy. I think toddlers is when you start to realize like, okay, you definitely are able to catch on to things a lot more quickly. You probably get bored a lot more easily than a little baby does. So just trying to balance that out has been, I think, a little bit of a challenge, and like learning ourselves like, okay, like how do we manage this, how do we get some of her energy out because she's not wanting to take her naps? How do we burn some of that energy because they have a lot of energy? Finding that balance has been kind of like the dynamic that we're trying to figure out right now.
And then as soon as you figure it out, it'll change again.
I think, Scott, you're probably absolutely right.
But it'll keep you on your toes, that's for sure.
For sure.
Has it been fun watching her become a big sister?
Well, it's funny because she acknowledges that he exists and she knows that it's her little brother, but he doesn't really interact with her that much because he's so little. So she's just kind of like, yeah, you're the baby that just hangs out over there, and I'm doing my own little thing. But now he just learned how to flip over. So I think that bond will definitely get a lot closer once he starts interacting with her a little more, but she's more of like, yeah, like this is still my world, and you're just some baby that's sitting over there. I don't really pay much attention to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
It definitely does get more dynamic as the little one gets along, starts walking, and
Yeah.
it'll be fun. And as you look ahead, how do you envision kind of teaching both of them and any other kids about not just Bitcoin, but kind of just like financial education? You and Thevin have talks about that, or kind of how do you plan for that side of things?
I think about it a lot, and I really like listening to other financial podcasts that are not necessarily Bitcoin related, but just the money psychology of how everything works when it comes to humans. Because just because you have a tool like Bitcoin in your life doesn't mean that your life is just automatically amazing. There's certain disciplines that you have to have. And so listening to these other podcasts really makes you self-reflect like, oh, okay, like how am I managing money, or how are we managing money, to the point where they're going to, it's not so much about how to teach them, but what they will see as an example of how you react, with money, with your partner or whatever. So I think the plan is to just have them get involved as much as they can with their understanding that they have, because we're also just learning. Like we're still pretty new pretty new at this. I want to say I wish I were a money expert, but I'm still learning every single day. So just any tools that we can put in our toolbox so that they can see reflected, and so that they, because you don't realize how much impact those money conversations or how your parents handle money affect you as an adult and the way you view the world and how you view things. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. Just try to do our best. I've told him, like, when are we gonna have our money dates? It's what they call them, where you have dates where you can just like, talk about finances, money. And it's hard because it's kind of establishing a new tradition in your family and finding the time to do it to where you don't have, the kids and stuff, but actually allowing yourself to have that time to talk with your significant other, your spouse, to really dream and have an actual plan of, okay, if Bitcoin goes to the moon, like, do we actually have a plan, or is it just going to be like, oh, cool, we have this much and, that's it.
Now what?
Exactly. Now what? I feel like that's a question that a lot of people don't ask themselves. Like, it's happening. Are you actually prepared? Because just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean that your life is automatically so much better, or it can actually be detrimental if you don't know how to manage that much.
Are there anything? I think it's a good tip that you said you listen to listen or read, doesn't matter, to financial stuff outside of the typical Bitcoin space. Are there any things that you've learned from over there that either surprised you or you think that would be helpful to other Bitcoin families out there?
Yeah, well, it is challenging because they talk bad about Bitcoin if it comes up, or crypto because it's a scam, or the people that they have in their podcasts lost so much money, so of course it's bad. So it's just kind of like, okay, I'm not gonna get mad at this podcast or money advice just because they have a bad opinion about Bitcoin doesn't necessarily mean that their other advice may not be good to apply to your life. So some good things are that I've learned, and you have to put it into practice as well. But kind of how you manage the finances within your own home and how that should look like, and just making sure you have open communication with your partner about everything that's going on. From my personal opinion, like even conversations about like joining your bank accounts and stuff to just kind of streamline everything, because if you're already a family unit, why do you want to make it more difficult with it just having everything kind of separate? It's better to just have everything kind of, where both of you can see and have these healthy conversations about money where you can both make decisions, not where one person's completely blindsided. Because I listen to so many of these stories and it's just like, wow, that like 15 years can pass and you don't realize that all that time has passed, and you don't realize how detrimental your finances can be just because you left it up to the other person, or vice versa. So just whatever you can learn to keep your house tidy and kind of streamline things is really good, because even like with your Bitcoin, like making sure does the other person know how to access it in case something happens, like conversations that go just beyond how much are we stacking and how much do we have in our account now is super important to kind of just gain those skills. It's all skills based.
Definitely, for sure. And I think one thing that's clear from this conversation, going back, earlier you said you didn't let the distractions about Bitcoin distract you from learning about it. And then you also just said when you're listening to these other podcasts or whatever it may be, and you're hearing things that you don't agree with, you're not letting that discourage you from learning other things. So that's probably, just a huge tip that so many people will get blindsided by, they hear something and then they turn it off, or they
yeah, don't let it trigger you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Don't let it trigger you. Keep diving down that hole, and like we said earlier, learn for yourself. That's perfect. And kind of touching back on the family side of thing, what's been the most rewarding part of building a family together?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if it's like just still being super hormonal, but it's like you just sort of cry when you see your kids and just be like, wow, we couldn't have done this without each other. Like it's absolutely amazing, and just seeing how much love you have with them and then with your partner, it's crazy how much love multiplies when you have a family. It's insane. You think about, can I have more? Yes, I can probably have more. It's just so much fun to build kind of like that legacy together, and to see how others interact with what you have created as well. So like other family members and stuff interacting with these brand new members of the family. It's just like, wow, we did this together. This is really cool. This brings happiness to a lot of other people as well. So I don't know, it's so special to just see yourself reflected. And that's literally the creation of just pure love together into existence. And then other people can see it as well. It's absolutely amazing.
It definitely is. And as you look ahead, do you have any, what are some hopes and dreams that you have for your kids as they grow up?
I want them to not only be amazing human beings, because I know they will be, but just for them to be aware, also very Catholic as well, Christian. So it's like, don't only work for what's in this life, but also what comes after. Like you want to keep your eye on like the bigger prize. And that's one day we're probably all going to die and go to heaven. And I want to be able to see you up there as well. So we can all, just be together. And through that, I know just have a lot of love in your heart. This world can be very dark. And I know that's a lot of reason of why people are like, well, I don't want to bring kids into this world because is such a messed up place, but we're like bringing more light into it to show that it's not just a messed up place. Like it's actually just, it's a miracle that we're alive when we wake up every single day and are able to experience this world. So just make the best of it and show people that, you know, it's a miracle. It's all because of love. Like we're here essentially just because of love. So you're able to experience that as well. So I want them to have a fulfilling life. I hope that whatever tools we pick up along the way are helpful for them. If they're not helpful, they can discard them and, you know, figure out their own way. But just being able to provide them the foundation and the tools that they need so that they can have a happy, fulfilling life and that they can share that with others. I think that would be like the biggest gift as a mom, to be able to see them live out their lives that way.
Beautifully said. And it kind of radiates your positive energy that comes through. And, you know, like you said, going back to it, you know, if you give your kids the tools and they don't agree with them, do the proof of work and they can make up their mind on their own.
Exactly. I have my reason for doing certain things, but if you see that something works better for you, and times change as well, which is something that you realize is like, oh, but my mom used to do things this way, and oh, but grandma used to do things this way. It's like, well, we have new information nowadays, so we can do things differently and it'll have a better outcome. So it's just, you know.
Exactly. No, and you guys can have those conversations together in the future.
I would
Perfect.
love for them to teach me new things as well, because I know that, you know, their world is going to be super different. It's like, okay, I'll stay humble. You can teach me new things.
Yep. They will start teaching you before you even know it.
Exactly.
Well, before we get to the final two questions, I do just want to remind the audience that you're welcome to use code BFF Show for 10% off at shamray.com. So pick up games, books, plushies, whatever you want, head on over there, and you're welcome to use that code to your heart's content. And so we will wrap things up with our final two questions like we always do. So a common saying in Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is time. Another belief is that time is the scarcest asset the world has ever created. Playing off of all of that, what is the biggest gift of time that learning about Bitcoin has provided your family?
I think it's just, it helps you realize that you can stop and actually live moments in life without rushing through them. Especially as a parent, I feel like sometimes we get into like, let's just rush to the next thing because it needs to get done. And, you know, to try to get peace of mind, but you don't really realize that it's like, okay, I can actually slow down and it'll be okay. You know, because we prepared ourselves for this moment. That's the beauty of things, that, and something that Bitcoin did provide, is life doesn't necessarily happen to you. You kind of create what you want that life to be. And it can be good things and bad things, you know. Just a quick side note, we had an emergency with our toddler where she had to go to the hospital and my baby was only a month. So being able for my husband to be like, should I take this time off to like kind of be with her instead of going to work? And it's like, well, yes, first of all, because, you know, it's important for you to be there. And second, because thank God we have the privilege and something, like I said, some foundation down the line where you don't even think about money right now. Like, to just be there for her in this moment, because it was a very scary time. And so being able to kind of make those decisions because you're able to, it really is Bitcoin giving you that time back that maybe other people necessarily don't have that privilege to be like, hey, I can take a couple of weeks off so that I can, you know, be with my kid because she was going through this experience. So I believe in that saying a lot. And it just gives you the opportunity to kind of think and be like, okay, let's not rush through these very beautiful moments that are completely fleeting. And especially when you have kids, it's like, they're not going to be this age anymore. So let's enjoy them as much as we can. And, you know, we've been working on these other adult things in the background so that we can enjoy these moments, because it really is sad how fast they grow up. It's crazy. It happens so quickly.
It definitely does. No, beautifully said. And on to our final question. If you had one Bitcoin to give each of your kids, at what age would you give them the keys and why?
Oh, that's a really hard question. And I struggle with it because obviously we have Bitcoin that it's also like, because we want it for our kids as well. But what lessons do I want to teach them before they even know that they have that amount of Bitcoin? because I just don't want to give it, be like, oh, hey, yeah, and do whatever you want with it. And then they're completely reckless with it. It's like, okay, well, mom and dad put in the time, like hard earned time. So I want to make sure that you're responsible with it. So I don't think it's necessarily, I don't know if there's like an age like, oh, when they're 18, I'll give them the keys and they can do whatever they want. I think it's more of like, whenever you show proof of work. I need proof of work to make sure that you're going to be able to handle this and that you're responsible with it, because there's no sense in giving it to you if you're just going to, be reckless with it or whatever. I don't know. I thought about it a lot. It's like, do I even tell them that, they have this amount? I don't know. Or should I teach them like whatever you stack, that's yours, but you don't have access to this just because you're my kid.
Yep. No, there's many different questions and probably no right or wrong answers, and
Yeah.
you figure it out along the way.
Yeah. What do you think? I'm curious.
I think it'd probably be somewhere in the 20s.
Yeah.
It's probably hard to say when we think that, Charlotte's 6 now, and we consider her a mature 6-year-old. Zoe's, a year and a half, so it's hard to tell. But, if you have a kid that's more mature and can understand things faster, that could move up the timeline, or,
Sure. Yeah.
And part of it just comes around to, understanding not only what they have, but understanding how to access it and all that stuff.
And the true value that it has, right? That it's not just,
Yep.
Yeah.
And, by the time they're teenagers and 20 something, probably, the way wallets are set up and all that stuff will probably drastically change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows what that'll be like when you're actually giving someone access to it in a kid-friendly way or whatever it may be. So yeah, we've had
Wild.
It's been fun. It's been fun asking the question. Everything from, I think 16 is the lowest answer I've heard so far, and then all the way up into the 20s or 30s. Just, no right or wrong.
And I mean, if it's a situation where they absolutely need it, it's like you're like, okay,
That's
here
different.
you go. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, perfect. It's been an awesome conversation. I'm sure everybody's enjoyed it. Thanks a bunch for being here, coming out of retirement, like you said before we started, to join the show. Everybody, go follow Camila on X. Any place else you want to send people to connect with you, or final words for the audience?
Yeah, no, all my socials are at Camila Campton. I haven't really been as active just because mom world is highly crazy. But yeah, final words. Just, be thankful and grateful for whatever journey you're in. It's absolutely special and wonderful. And you are able to just get the tools that you need to create an amazing life for yourself, especially at this day and age where you have so much information at your fingertips. Just channel that to learn whatever you want to learn and create the life that you want. And for the parents out there, you guys are the absolute number one heroes, I believe, because this is a blessing and a calling to actually be a parent and to want to raise these little humans that are the future of this world. So just hang on in there and just know that you're doing an amazing job.
Positivity to end the show is exactly what we need. So thanks everybody for listening. We will catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, thanks for joining. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a good review. And buy your kids some stuff at sawmary.com today. Bye. 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 Bye.